ready for this? Are you ready to go back to the most wonderful, magical world?
This is the most wonderful, imaginable world that you could ever imagine.
Yep. Just the most wonderful one that you
I would
imagine.
venture that this definitely is a very imagined world.
You know what that is? I was thinking about that, because I was thinking, like, they could have taken the opportunity to, when in every movie, there was always an opportunity to make parts of other movies not canon anymore.
It's almost...
They're like, yes, all of this builds on each other. It has, like, more lore than a Batman comic.
It's almost like there was a gun to their head. The amount of, like, shit that they had to shove into this movie for no reason other than to point at it and say, well, there it is.
Yeah, no, that happens.
Yeah, it's almost like foreshadowing what Marvel movies would become.
This movie, I felt like, was the first movie in a long time in these movies that I could tell what it was trying to do. Like, the last two movies we watched, I felt like were just so off the wall, both, like, bonkers and generic, if that makes any sense. And the ones before that, I was like, okay, I see them trying to build this world. And this one, I can see them trying to build the world away from Tinkerbell. Like, I'm watching them trying to be like, she's not the most important person ever.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Like, and I think this movie might be the only movie in which everybody actually, like, every single side character that we have been, like, constantly reintroduced to actually has stuff to do in a meaningful way. Like, they're talking to each other. It's nice.
They're talking to each other. They get to, like, their characteristics are redefined because they need to redefine them, and that's a really good choice. As, like, now we can actually introduce these characters. Not since maybe the first movie, and that one felt like so weird and like a mandatory thing. Like, we need to tell you who these characters are. And this one, it felt like they tried to build a story around them. I'm not saying they did. No. I want to make that clear.
I think this is the worst one.
I was going to say it might be one of the better ones. I don't know if I would say best or anything, but it's one of the good ones. I think it's better than
I think that is true. I think that is true. I think it is better than the last one. Here's what I think. I think this movie is one of my favorites, but, like, just the sheer, like, visceral emotions that I felt while watching this movie were more emotion, not positive emotions, but more emotion than I felt in a while.
I feel like I tried to ignore a lot of this movie. There is one aspect of this movie that did make me deeply furious. But we won't get to it until
and what movie is this, then? We haven't even said the name.
This, we have watched...
The Pirate Fairy.
Did I say
no,
welcome
you didn't.
to direct-to-video?
Shit. I am positive.
Are you sure? I'm exhausted. Welcome to direct-to-video. VHS? A podcast where we pair movies like fine wine. This week we watched The Pirate Fairy, which was excellent. I think we've decided
it's definitely better than most of the movies that I've seen recently. It
is probably the third best version of Captain Hook I've ever seen. For our podcast, I should have made that clear.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. It is definitely the...
He might be second best. I don't know. I feel like Captain Hook in the original Peter Pan is such a miss.
Really? You think he's a miss?
Yeah. I think he's a miss because he is only ever scary when there aren't any children.
I guess that's true.
He's only ever scary to his own crew. And whenever there's children, they're like, we're not scared of you.
I do think that Captain Hook in the original movie has so many notable quotables.
That's fair. I think Captain Hook in the sequel is like the best.
Oh, absolutely. He gets all the best things to do.
This movie felt like somebody had at some point pitched a Hook movie and, like Cruella. Somebody had pitched a Hook movie and somebody else was like, no, we could just fold that into the Fairyverse.
But Tony, there is a Hook movie.
Hey, Andy, let me make my joke without adding this terrible, terrible revelation. Wait, there is a Hook movie?
So there isn't a Hook movie. There is a movie in which Hook is one of the, if not the main characters.
Because the most relatable version of Captain Hook that I can recall is Once Upon a Time. You ever see him?
Tony, I have never seen Once Upon a Time.
He's sexy.
Okay, give me a second. Once Upon a Time. You can't just say things like that, Captain Hook.
I mean, he is, though. He's, like, hot. He's, like,
Hook,
a cool
Once Upon a Time.
anti-hero.
Oh, my goodness. This guy's got eyeshadow for days.
Yeah. I think Once Upon a Time came out not that long after Pirates of the Caribbean, and they left a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean.
They left a little bit of it on him. They got a little bit of that Pirates of the Caribbean stank on him. Yeah, this is a pretty good Hook, actually. I think, so in the live-action Peter Pan movie that came out, ages ago now, like in 2003, he's played by Jason Isaacs, who you might remember as Lucien Malfoy. And I knew him first from this movie, where he plays both Mr. Darling and Hook. They double cast him just like in the play, and he is fantastic. He's the best part of the movie.
That's cool. I really like that idea. I feel like Hook in the original Disney's Peter Pan is kind of like overburdened with what he's supposed to be, because in Peter Pan, and what they don't do in that version, is Peter Pan's
he's a piece of shit.
But they don't exactly get it across in that version. And therefore, Hook has to be the villain the whole time, and he's not very good at it, because that's not his job.
No. Well, the thing about it is that, and I hate to say this, I hate to say the sentence that I'm about to say, but the reality of Peter Pan is that Peter Pan is the Joker. He is a piece of shit, agent of chaos type. He lives in a society. He's twisted, he dances downstairs, all that shit. That's his role in the story.
Yeah. He believes that there are jokes that you should be able to make.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. He thinks cutting off people's hands is funny. He does. He thinks it's objectively hilarious. But he's the purpose of his character is to represent the literally unadulterated child mind, like what children would be without the hand of a competent adult to rear them. And that's supposed to be a bad thing.
But they don't exactly want to give you that as a bad thing.
Moving on, I was going to say that the Hook movie was Pan, which came out in 2013, but I did forget that there is just a Robin Williams movie called Hook.
Yes, there is a Robin Williams movie called Hook, but it's about Peter Pan, so that was a weird choice. Tom Hiddleston is Captain Hook in this movie?
I didn't realize until the end of the movie when it's and Tom Hiddleston is James, and I was like, what the fuck?
By the way, on IMDb, he is listed as James, and this is something that I feel like we should get ahead of it. I will be calling him Captain Hook. Because he is
Disney's Captain Hook the whole movie.
They do not call him that. It's like a weird inside joke. This movie is for small children who do need things spelled out for them.
Yet, the one thing that they don't spell out is that this guy's Captain Hook. He's going to be Captain Hook. Let's start. The beginning of this movie explicitly references Peter Pan. The movie kind of just starts by just kind of reminding you, hey, remember, these fairies exist on Neverland. I think we're introduced to Zarina just faffing about.
Yep, Zarina's just wandering down, and she waves hi to all the other fairies, and they're all like, hey, Zarina, why aren't you flying? She's like, oh, I ran out of fairy pixie dust. And you know what? That's probably not a plot yeah, how'd you run out of pixie dust? You are a dust fairy. And she's like, I just like to walk. Zarina's full of it. Zarina throughout this movie will have big Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock energy.
Yes, Zarina yes, thank you, that is perfect. She exists to do science, like capital S science. And yes. Everybody else in Pixie Hollow is like, you can't do capital S science. It's too dangerous. You don't know what you're messing with.
Yes. She questions things, and they're like, don't question things. And the thing that bothers me is, you know what, why don't I mention this at the, after the explosion. She goes down to work, which, like I said, she works at the pixie dust
she works
tree.
With Terrence.
Yes, and this is the first and pretty much last time we'll see Terrence, which is the correct amount of
we
time
will see him one more time.
Yes, that's true.
One more time.
One more time. Her job is to tie up the leaves full of pixie dust to, I guess, hand out to the fairies or whatever they do with them. I can't remember.
Yeah, just packaging
and she says, how come when we sprinkle it on something, it makes it float, and when we tie it up in the leaves, they don't float? And that's an excellent question. And everybody's just like, that's just how it works. She's like, yeah, but why does it work that way? And so we have all this, and it turns out it's her day to let out some of the blue dust in the tree.
Is what it's what the tree focuses in order to create the ever flowing river of pixie dust.
You might have forgotten this if it has been a while since you have watched the Lost Treasure. Tinkerbell, Lost Treasure. Like we said earlier, Fairy Hollow is overburdened with so much lore at this point. And again, I see what they're trying to do, but it's like, here's the thing, this thing has to come in the next movie at some point. Like, that's the problem they're making for themselves.
Except here's the thing is, I don't think the next movie has anything to do with pixie dust, so I think they saved themselves there.
Maybe, but this movie didn't have anything to do with the Winter Fairies, did it? And we get to see the Winter Fairies one last time.
True. That's true.
Pour some out for the Winter Fairies.
Pour one out. They all died in this movie. It's so frustrating because, like, her whole thing is that she's Tinkerbell. She's literally just Tinkerbell again, right?
Somebody even says it. Her boss, I believe, Fairy Larry. Great name.
God, is that really his name? I was going to ask you, do you remember what this fucking asshole's name is?
It's either Fairy Larry or Fairy Gary. Like, he has one of the rhyming names.
Yeah, this guy, but worst boss. You think
he is so bad at this?
I'm gonna give everybody a little piece of advice here, which is, if you are, let's say, upper management to owner of a company of some kind, right? Mm-hmm. And you got an evil mad scientist. It happens to the best of us. You hire somebody because they're qualified and they happen to be, if not evil, at least a mad scientist, capital S, capital M. You don't fire that person. Don't discourage that person. Don't encourage them either. Just, treat them with the care that you would treat like a loose bottle of nitroglycerin, and just keep an eye on them at all times, because
you might want to find them a project.
Yeah, find them something really big to work on that won't kill everyone. Because the last thing you want is somebody creating. Yeah, you don't want somebody creating like a micro sun that kills their wife, right? Like, these are the dangers. Speaking of dangers,
Zarina, after Fairy Larry, I'm gonna keep calling him Larry.
He feels like a Larry.
Slaps her down about, like, how does all this work? She swipes some of the blue pixie dust to take home and work on her experiments. She's been doing experiments with pixie dust, none of it works. Turns out you need the blue pixie dust, and then she can make a bunch of different colored pixie dust, which can give her the powers of other fairies.
And this is heresy, what she's doing.
Apparently?
It's they don't say it, but like, what she's doing is taboo, and it's implied that at some point in fairy history, messing with these other dusts was common.
Or at least just done one other time, right? And something terrible happened.
Maybe somebody lost their wings or something. Or maybe, their legs. I don't know. But the effects of the dust are temporary. And she only has a limited amount of this, of the blue dust to use. She has like literally, I think like she has one dust and she just keeps like chipping away at it. Like I'll get like a fraction of a fraction.
So she unlocks a bunch of other fairies' powers and accidentally grows so much vines that it almost destroys the tree that makes all the fairy dust, the pixie dust, rather. I'm gonna keep calling it the wrong thing. She I guess hires Tinkerbell to help her out. Oh my god, yeah, this is how Tinkerbell is introduced. I forgot about that. They wait so long because they really don't want this movie to be about Tinkerbell.
They want, this is a movie about Zarina and her bad relationship. Tinkerbell and the other fairies have their own like almost D&D side quest adventure, but they're not the focus. Zarina is the focus, and it really shows in this scene where like Tinkerbell is reacting to her as opposed to causing trouble for the first time in her life.
Right. Tinkerbell's like, hey, are you sure we should do this? Which is something Tinkerbell has never said before.
Tinkerbell in her entire life.
At this point, which is maybe a few years, but it will be 1 year more further obscuring the timeline.
So Tinkerbell is at least 3 years old, at most 5 is where I'm at here. But Zarina creates purple pixie dust, which is like the big like, whoa, oh my god, what is this? I would assume it was speed dust, but apparently it's not. And yes,
what's it do?
I don't remember what it does. I don't think it does.
Is that the wind one?
Yeah, the wind swift.
Because it's color-coded to the fairies.
But the purple dust, I think, is the wind swift dust, right?
Right.
And then
I think so.
So she starts creating a bunch of dusts, and Tinkerbell's like, this seems like a bad idea. They start arguing about it, and then she accidentally causes a terrorism, which,
she does some light terrorism.
Just a very, very light, like people get locked into their homes. It's like fine, nobody dies, but like it's
a big oopsie terrorism.
Yeah, who hasn't, right?
It's like, what if you? No, I don't want to make this joke.
Here's what I'll say, right? What she does is about 2 steps below, maybe 4 steps below the ending of Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh man, it's a couple steps below.
Right? Like,
what she does basically is she almost destroys a pillar of her society, but almost. Like, she stops it. It gets stopped. And honestly, would it have destroyed it? Probably not. It would have, if anything, it would have just made it grow larger, which is like, whatever. Right. Who knows? So Zarina is fired by Gary Larry. He's like, if you're gonna mess with dust like this, you can't be here.
I do like that. I think at one point somebody is like, Tinkerbell, did you do this?
Yes, that was great. I called him Gary Larry, and now I think that's what I need to call him for the rest of the show.
Gary Larry is Larry. You're fired, Zarina, because only Tinkerbell gets forgiveness.
Right. Well, he thinks she's going to be dangerous, and then she takes this as the chance to run off forever. Because she's so sad mad. And then we get... And then it's not the worst use of this, but I do love that a year just passed.
It's just a year. Hey, a year has passed. It's like, whoa.
We've been focusing so hard on like, wait, how does this timeline even make sense? And now they're just throwing in an extra year.
Throw in a year, and it's
maybe in that year was when the other stuff happened.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, it's possible.
It is, right?
I think it's possible that the last 3 movies could have fit in between the prologue and this movie. Jesus Christ, Tony. I'm gonna have to string this. I'm gonna make like a chronological cut of this movie. It's gonna make sense.
People are going to come up to us and be like, so what do you think is the correct order to watch the Tinkerbell movies?
The Tinkerbell movies. And I'd be like, well, I recommend we have to create like a ridiculous name, right? Like they always have like, I recommend the Chekhov order.
The Chekhov order.
Chekhov's order. You watch the first movie, and then you watch the first 14 minutes of A Pirate Fairy, then you watch the next 3 movies, and then you watch the rest of Pirate Fairy.
I was going to say the Gemini order, that's where you start with the winter one so that you know the whole time that she's actually a twin. And then you just start with the beginning.
Oh, yes. That way it's not a surprise.
That's why it's not a surprise. People don't like surprises.
Nobody likes surprises. Who has ever liked a good twist? Not me.
I mean, this is a movie where you're pretty sure where everything's going the entire time. So.
It's fuck. Okay, so we are watching. I don't really know what this is. I don't think we ever get into it.
It's the Olympics. It's the Olympics.
It's the Olympics, right? They're doing.
I was kind of irritated that we were somehow recording this movie after the Olympics happened.
And I was also mad that my hope was when I first watched it that we'd be able to get it out right around the time Loki came out. And then I moved, and then the Olympics happened. I was like, oh, maybe we'll get it in time for the Olympics. And then I was not done moving. I was like, God.
Well, I'll have to make a note to tag this with both Tom Hiddleston and the Olympics, just so we can get some of that.
And Loki.
And Loki.
And Alligator Loki.
Fuck, that's actually fair.
So I haven't seen the show, so I have no idea. I just know that it's a meme. I don't know.
Alligator Loki's the best version of Loki because he doesn't betray anybody. He's an alligator.
That's true. Alligators can't betray anybody.
No, you're pretty sure about what they want the whole time.
Yeah, which is your hands. So they're doing the opening ceremony to Fairy Olympics, and we get a Vuvuzela joke, which is very topical. We get Tinkerbell. I love lines like this in movies. I think I've talked about this before, where it cuts to the Winter Fairies are doing their opening ceremony, and it cuts to Periwinkle, and it cuts back to Tinkerbell, and she's like, "That's my sister," and it's like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, Tinkerbell. We were
Who are you? There. You're every single person that you're telling this to knows this already. It's my favorite thing in movies. Whenever it's like such a like production or producer coming in and going, "Who's that? What's happening?"
Right.
And the writer having to be like, "Fuck, okay, we'll write a line in here that just quickly explains, like, it's Salt. That guy's getting his soul sucked. That's my sister." Like.
Oh, it's Salt is a great line, too.
It is my favorite line.
Well, because here's the thing, the audience needs to know that it's Salt.
It's Salt.
Because otherwise the scene is dumb and doesn't make any sense.
And doesn't make any sense, but the in-universe...
In-universe, it's...
This motherfucker...
You're about to get into a fight, what are you licking the ground for?
And the guy was probably like Palpatine's grandson or some shit. So...
Switch.
We are introduced to Zarina's costume change, which is the coolest.
It's an upgrade.
I think it's the coolest a fairy has looked in a while.
Yeah. They do a lot with the costumes in this one, even if it's just like they get to mess with the colors of the fairies.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody in character design was having fun.
Absolutely. But I do think that like the entire design of Zarina is so much better than like any of what her character gets to do. Because she's just
that's fair.
Because she's just a pirate fairy. She's wearing pirate stuff. She's got like a little pirate coat and a little pirate bandana and a little pirate sword. Mm-hmm. And she's sneaking around doing something suspicious. You're like, oh. So
the suspicious thing that she does is grows a bunch of poppies.
Yes.
And lets all the pollen shoot out over the fairies so that they all pass out. Now, importantly, Rosetta realizes what's happening and makes everybody else hide. And Clank has to go to the bathroom and therefore misses being poisoned. This is important. Actually, let me say the other thing that I said when everything went wrong. These movies, like, are trying to be pro, like, experimentation, pro, like, engineer, almost, with what Tinkerbell turns out to be, and are also anti-science.
Well, the idea being that, like, we're pro-industrialization, but we are not pro-curiosity.
It's very odd. Zarina is vilified for her mistakes, and is eventually forgiven for them for no reason, and we are not told, oh, it's because what she did was actually good. We're not told that. We don't understand that to really be true.
Yeah.
But this thing that she does here is why she should not be forgiven for anything ever, because she poisons the entire population of fairies during the Olympics, even though she doesn't need to, and could just steal this powder, steal this fairy dust that she wants, because everybody's already distracted.
She can fly.
And I want to mention something else very interesting, because it didn't occur to me until later. It was very big fridge logic. I was literally at the fridge when I thought of it.
Nice.
If Clank had not missed getting poisoned, all of the winter fairies would have died.
They would have died. Which
means that Zarina is an attempted mass murderer.
I think at that point it's genocide.
Yes. Let's call it attempted genocide.
Attempted genocide.
This person is so much worse than, the movie means for her to be.
And here's the thing, right? You can argue, well, the winter fairies wouldn't have died. They would have just lost their wings and their powers.
Oh, okay, sure. So they just get mutilated.
So they just get brutally maimed, and also are unable to do their job, right? A thing that they they need to do to keep nature and balance in order or whatever. She was willing.
Yes, canonically, that's what they do: keep nature in balance.
She was willing to.
She's sacrificing the whole world.
The whole world. A world without Christmas. Can you imagine? For what? Well, we're gonna find out later for what. But it's hard to imagine something that is worth all of this effort, especially when she can fly. She could have just gone and taken it. No one's guarding it.
No one's guarding it. They're all at the stupid Olympics. And that's why she attacked the Olympics, so that nobody would be able to find her. But they wouldn't even have known it was gone for, days, probably. Or at least a day.
At least a whole 12 hours. And also,
right.
No one would have seen her. And no one would even know where to start looking for her. Because she was hidden. She had a secret hideout. The heist of the century.
She steals fairy dust, flies away. Clank manages to see her and gets the other fairies who have locked themselves in this dumb mechanical thing that Tinkerbell has made. Oh man, I just realized Tinkerbell doesn't get to create anything in this.
No, she doesn't.
Powers.
Yeah, no, she doesn't, because she loses her powers, and apparently that means she can't invent, which is bananas. It is fascinating because everybody else is obviously outward facing magic. But maybe she has inward brain magic. Brain magic. Yeah, it's dumb. It's stupid.
It's dumb. Okay, so yes, it's dumb. However, the highlights of this movie for me was mostly Video realizing that she was Tinkerbell now.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's so good.
And, there is something very, very purely, rivals to lovers about Video and Tinkerbell. Yes. That I find so interesting, and that definitely wasn't entirely done on purpose. And it's just fun. I think Video might be my favorite character now.
No, absolutely. She gets. I think she might have.
Everybody else is so bubbly by comparison.
Yeah, I do think she gets.
Although weirdly, she does lose her pants.
Oh yeah, that's right. Her pants are part of the talents is your outfit.
Yeah, I guess.
I forget that's what they're fucking called. They're called talents. I have it here in my notes.
Talents.
But so she steals all the blue pixie dust. We get an owl jump scare at some point when they're chasing her. They're chasing her down.
Mm-hmm.
And they find out that she's being assisted by human pirates.
Human pirates, which they don't say. They just say pirates.
Pirates, because assuming that all pirates are human.
Right, which is, I guess, an important assumption, but it does seem a little bit weird, because it seems weird that she would get any human's help, and it'd be weird that she got a pirate's help.
How did they get here?
Yes, that is the question. Hook says that it is easier to, cross... He says something, a throwaway line, I believe, about how you can, cross worlds or something, but he can't cross to the sky yet. Something wild.
Yeah.
That I think is supposed to explain how he ended up on Neverland somehow.
Now, here's the thing, right? Like, assuming what you told me about the books is true and that Neverland is supposed to be an allegory for the New World, that's all fine and dandy. But in these movies, it is a magical place. It's
a magical world because they, even specifically when they're leaving Neverland, they still have to fly to the first star to the right. Now, that wouldn't be the first star to the right if they were going in the other direction, so it must be magic.
We never get an explanation for how the fuck they got here.
No, not really.
Or even how they encountered Zarina.
There is a bit of an explanation. Hook makes a toast.
Yes.
About how they were stranded on this island, so maybe they got here in, like, a magical storm or something, for all we know.
Yeah. Legend of Oz style.
And Zarina, like, found them. It's all very vague, but I guess the idea of how pirates would get on any magical island is vague. Anyway, yeah, the girls catch up to Zarina, and they're gonna kick her ass, and she fucking poofs them with a bunch of weird, pixie dust.
She does it, but I think they get away with, they surprise the pirates, they get away with stealing back the blue dust, but then Zarina chases them down, and with her new mastery of the many-colored pixie dusts, she manages to trick them, get them wet, and then also, like, poof them with purple dust.
Right.
Which we find out what it does. I guess we don't find out what it does, but what it does to them in this moment is probably the best part of the movie.
Yes, it's good, although it does have an issue with, like, if you compare it to the first movie, you think to yourself, well, if this was possible, then there was a way for Tinkerbell to not be a tinker. And for her to have a talent that was more a talent than what she wanted.
Yes.
And not having to settle for something that wasn't what she wanted, even if she learned to love it.
Yeah.
And then the whole point of that movie, and therefore of kind of all of the movies, falls apart a little bit. The fact that Tinkerbell's brain is her powers.
Yeah, because my assumption in that first movie was that Tinkers are the fairies that don't have powers.
Right, or they have just, powers of flight, basically. They're good at putting stuff together, but, like, they can't shoot sunlight at stuff.
Yeah, and they can't, like, be super wind swift or grow plants or, every other fairy has, like, a tangible physical...
They're like Sokka in the Avatar show.
Yes. They have a boomerang.
He's got a boomerang, he builds stuff sometimes, but, like, everybody else has fucking magic powers, he just has to deal with it.
And he just has to deal with it. And that, to me, like they can fly, but, like, that to me is cool, right? Like, the idea that, like this is a society in which everybody has a purpose.
Mm-hmm. They live in a society.
And like, if you're born without inherent powers, like, you can still contribute, like, there's a place for you.
Right. The reveal that it's all just, like, an outside chemical, the fairy dust working on them, is super weird.
It's very weird. Here's the thing, right? Is, like, the idea that there's always a place for somebody to do something to help out is great. The idea that people are inherently born to invent things or whatever is, like, we're running into some really weird territory that I'm just not comfortable with.
But then, because this changed them, you can't even say, like, it's because they have learned talents, or it's inherent. Like, they have things that they used to be good at, and now they're not good at them anymore. I mean, what's-her-face, Fawn, her thing that she's good at is animals like her. Yeah. That is also not inherent to her. It's just something that gets shaken up when somebody blows magic dust at her. I don't know, it's weird. The whole thing's weird.
It just doesn't make sense.
We are actively overanalyzing this.
The thing is why bring it up at all? Why do it, right? Like, I don't know. I like the gimmick, though. It's
a fun gimmick. They do a lot of fun stuff with it. Even just at the beginning when Tinkerbell accidentally shoots everybody with water again.
Yeah, it's great.
It's great.
And then we get to the part of the movie that frustrated me for the whole movie. Because we cut back to Zarina. Oh, wait, do they find the baby crocodile first?
Well, I was going to talk about the baby crocodile, but you might be right.
I like the baby crocodile. I think it's cute. I think it's like the most adorable thing I've ever seen. I will never forgive Rosetta for being mean to them. Because I love this tiny little monster. I love that I know it's going to grow up to eat Captain Hook's hand.
Right.
I honestly thought it was going to happen in this movie. I was waiting for it. And every time I had to remind myself, like, no, idiot, this is a movie for babies.
Also, Peter Pan canonically cuts off his hand, and I did not know if they were going to try to mess with that.
Right? Oh, man.
But I kept on looking at that crocodile, like, he is small enough to, like, get a hand in there.
Right, to get a hand in there.
They end up doing a sort of, they sort of split the difference by giving the crocodile, whose name will from that point on be TikTok. He gets to devour the clock.
He gets to eat the clock, which is great. I still like that. Here's the thing that I don't like about this movie. Does Captain Hook understand Zarina or not?
Yes, he does.
He has to, right? He has to.
He does. In a lot of in the scenes where it's just Zarina and
Hook,
Captain Hook,
Twink Hook,
they seem to be able to hold conversation. Zarina even tells him how to fly better, and he figures that out. He knows her name, but from his perspective, she is just speaking in bells. Correct. Now they do mention that Captain Hook, and this is the the closest thing that they ever have to an explanation to this at all.
Yes.
They do mention that he is educated.
Yes, he is an Oxford man. Specifically, he is an Oxford man, which is bananas because Captain Hook in the movies... I always
thought that he was from Cambridge.
Yeah, I always thought he was more of a Cambridge guy like James Bond. No, he's a fucking pirate. He's a pirate. He's a fucking pirate. He's not a privateer, right? He's not like he's not like an agent of the British Crown. He's a fucking
whoa. You don't know
pirate.
Where his life took him.
I know.
Maybe he spent a year at Oxford.
Absolutely not. No, this man who no. He cannot. This man is not an upper crust man.
I don't know. He has such a big feather.
At some point between this movie and the beginning of Peter Pan,
the man grows a mustache and goes crazy.
He grows a mustache, he goes crazy, but also he stops sounding like Tom Hiddleston and starts sounding like Jim Cummings. And that's a huge fucking gap, right? That's something that like smoking for 20 years won't do to you.
Let me just take really quick. I'm gonna pop over to IMDb just super, super quick. Oh, he was in the new.
Yes, he is.
The new thing, which makes sense. I'm just gonna really quick. Okay. He has never played Captain Hook.
No. Oh, was I wrong about that?
It does not look like Captain Hook is on his
Really?
IMDb.
I could have sworn it was him.
So Jim Cummings has never officially played Captain Hook. The reason I was checking was because Jim Cummings is absolutely in this movie.
He is absolutely in this movie. Regardless.
Yeah.
My point. Back to my point. Like, he has to go from sounding like an upper crust... I don't see it. He
has to sound into this.
Yeah.
I was maybe a little too far. Yes, precisely.
That does bring me to my other point, which is, why don't we get young, hot Shmi?
It is weird, right? He has, 4 crew members, and none of them are anybody we know. And it's like, why is that?
And here was my thought, before I put together that he was Captain Hook, because it did take me a while.
Oh, really? He was wearing red.
My initial thought, because he's wearing a vest. He's not wearing the jacket. And my initial thought was, with his little upper crust accent, I was like, is this young, hot Shmi?
Oh my god, I can't believe that's where you went. I just actually thought that he was a cabin boy, and that, therefore nobody else on the crew is his crew yet.
Yeah.
But when they revealed that he actually is the captain, then you're like, so where's the crew?
This is a boat. I would say, if you take into account that this is the smallest possible boat of this kind, of this era, needs a crew of at least 150 people. Where is everybody?
It's not a small ship.
We got 4 people, and all of them are racially coded in ways that I do not enjoy. Well, most of them.
It struck me as a way to add diversity to the movie, but done in such a way that they kind of just seem stereotypical.
Yeah, it's not good. Listen, I think part of my problem with it is we get this incredibly long incredibly boring song.
The guy who plays Yang is 100% not Chinese.
No, absolutely not.
This is a black guy.
Yeah, okay, well, that's definitely not what I expected, but...
No, it's wild. It's just like... In fact, do you know who he is?
Who is he?
He's the voice of Captain Gantu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is kind of awesome. But it's such a weird miscasting.
It is 2014. This is not excusable anymore, all right? Yeah. You cannot do this. It sucks that none of these people are anybody from the main movie. Like,
plus, here's the thing. I would be fine with a bunch of white pirates who know that they're from England.
They're pirates from England. I don't need,
It's like the turn of the century. England's not that much of a melting pot. It's the turn of the century. I get it. They're white. We can... What? Okay, you don't have to throw in joke characters.
Yeah, but and here's the other thing, right? Is if you want to spice things up, first of all, don't call it that. But if you want to add,
no, don't spice this up. Craig IMDb Smee is in here, but I don't believe it. You keep talking.
What? No,
you keep talking. I'm going to try to find.
No. They find him at the end of the movie.
I'm sorry. Is there an after credits part of the movie?
Yeah, I believe so. Did you not?
Absolutely not.
Did you not stick around? I stuck around but I could have sworn that there's like a moment at the end of the movie in which he is fished out of the water by Shmi. I'm looking for it now. Okay, it's not an after credits.
I don't know if I just wasn't looking.
Is it an inter credits, or did you just hit the end of the movie and you were like, well, that's the end of the plot. I'm out.
No, I remember him being bit by the crocodile and going, I'm not a codfish, and then it goes back to the fairies, and for fucking ever, we get some last shit with the fairies.
It is an inter-credits.
Oh my god.
So, literally, you get, all the producers and the director, and then you get an inter-credit scene in which James is fished out of the water by Shmi. Oh, wow, he looks weird. He looks very weird. He looks so much like his animated counterpart that he doesn't look like he belongs in this movie. Yeah, that does happen. I was going to talk about it. I'm surprised that you didn't see that. I guess I'm not, because you hard exit these movies pretty fast. I usually try to stick around for the credits just to see actor names. But what I was going to say earlier, actually, before we get to this song, if you listen, you have an all mayo sandwich. I get it. It's disgusting. You want to throw some stuff in there that isn't just mayonnaise. Okay. If you had made any reference to any other food, it would have been offensive, I think. Other than an all mayonnaise sandwich?
Yeah, all mayonnaise sandwich is I get it. And then you did said any other thing.
But you want to add some diversity to a cast, and that's fine. That's perfectly understandable. The best thing about, I think, these fairy movies is the fact that the cast of fairies are a diverse cast, and they're all voiced by actors of color. That's fantastic. You got to bring that A game to these background characters too.
Yeah, because this is a C game they got going here. This is nothing.
This is some 1980s ass shit. It's 2014, do better. No, you don't get an excuse for this. I don't care how direct to video you are.
Especially because I feel like you need to overcorrect when you are talking about
Peter Pan.
Any Peter Pan adaptation, right?
Right.
You have to go a little bit the extra mile. You can't just assume nobody's going to be offended because it is an inherently offensive source material. And so you need to push back against it a little bit.
So we get this long, incredibly boring song.
Yeah, you know what? I've started doing something with these fairy movies that I don't think I've been able to do with other ones, which is completely ignore the songs.
Yeah, they're just not great, and they don't get better.
No, this one might have the worst songs in it because they were the most pop songs. And one of them had a lot of repeating words. You know a kid is going to latch on to those.
Oh, God, yeah, you can't. You just you gotta mute it. Skip it, mute it, whatever you gotta do. So, while this is happening, what are we going to call Tinkerbell and Co.?
Oh, we call them the fairies. They're the only fairies besides the pirate one.
Besides the pirate fairy, yeah, all right, that's fair. So the fairies, the melted Crayola crayons.
Yeah, that's kind of what they look like. good looks for some of them.
Some of them it works. Some of them, the problem with doing a gradient, and this is a thing that I learned from doing gradients for the icon for our show, is that sometimes when you do a gradient between two colors, you end up with brown, and that is like the worst looking thing.
That is the trouble. You know who looks pretty good is Silver Mist, and honestly, I think it's because she gets Vidya's pants. She gets to add a little bit more color to it at the end.
Yeah, it's nice. The fairies find the pirates and they infiltrate the boat. We also see that Zarina has grown an entire replacement tree for creating pixie dust.
Yeah, it's basically the biggest revelation in the whole movie, and not a lot is done with it, besides the fact that it's a place where they can make pixie dust.
Yeah.
But it's weird because, like, if her plan was always to knock out all the fairies, why did she need another tree?
Yeah, well...
Although maybe it was to keep her able to fly for that year that she couldn't get anymore. So you know what? I'll allow it. And it's in, did you mention it was in Skull Island?
Yes, it's in Skull Island.
So it's our first official viewing of Skull Island.
This is technically, I think this is the only movie in any of the movies in which we're actually like foraying into very traditional Peter Pan locations.
Right, yeah.
Which is weird because we spent the last two movies going to like the winter side of the island.
And London. And the desert side of the island. God, what do we do? At this point, we get the lowdown from James. We get the lowdown from... at this point, we know he's Captain Hook. We get the lowdown from Captain Hook with what's happening here, which is that... Well, we know... I want to make something clear. We know he's gonna be Captain Hook.
We know he's gonna be Captain Hook.
We don't know that he's definitely gonna betray Zarina.
Yes, you do. What? Listen, I get it. Maybe if you're 5, maybe if you're in the age range this movie is, if you're in the age range that this movie is aiming for, maybe you missed it. Maybe you're like, oh, he looks a little sinister there, huh? But if you've seen a movie before, I think at this point you kind of get the gist of what's going to happen.
So,
if you've seen Frozen. And this is movie number 2. You get it.
He goes to kiss Zarina and is like, oh, it's too bad nobody loves you.
Yo, okay, but also while we're here, the vibes
Captain Hook and
Zarina
have a weird thing.
It's weird. It feels like they want to go down to whatever town you go to when one of you is a fairy and the other is a grown man.
Yes, it sounds a little complicated. But there is, like, some actual, what feels like romantic or sexual tension there. Like, Zarina's whole thing is that this charming guy has won her over and is going to betray her. Which is, like, absolutely a romantic plot point.
Right, yeah, exactly. And, like, maybe...
I'm sorry, I want to be fair. That's not her whole thing. Her other thing is that she's Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that she's a mad scientist.
But I want to say it again. She's crazy. And in a fun way.
in a very fun way. In a way that they could have done something better with, right? Because it sucks.
That she doesn't actually get to do that much.
That she doesn't have, like, a villainous goal. Like, her whole thing is that she has been promised a spot in this crew if she can get them back home.
Well, spot at the top.
A spot at the top,
She
specifically.
thinks she's the captain, which is hilarious. And I would not have known that James was going to betray her if she wasn't the captain.
Right? If it was just...
Because I was like, if she was just on the crew, I'd be like, absolutely you want a fairy on your crew. What's the problem with that?
Right? No, yeah, hell yeah. Especially if she can get you, like, dust and she's getting you flying. But, like, the fact that they are all like, oh, she's our captain, there's nothing we can do to fight back is like, oh, okay, this is all a fucking, like, fairy tale for her. Pardon the pun.
No, I'll allow it.
But it's bananas because they're putting all of this trust in her. The ruse of them believing she's a captain, that you can take or leave that. But they explicitly trust her to be able to do this, and yet also didn't know if she could do it.
I mean, maybe they really were as hard up as it sounded in his toast, which is like, they can't leave. They got here somehow, and they're stuck. And the only thing they can do is, like, trick this tiny boy
into
getting them the hell
home. But then here's the thing, right? If that's the case, right? They showed their hand way too early.
I mean, yes.
Like, you wait until you're back on fucking London-ass water. You gotta be in the middle of the Thames.
Jeez, the Thames, really. But that'd be fair, because if they betray her later, then what can she do about it? She might not be able to get home.
Yeah. Like, just you put her in a jar, and that's it. And that's it, I guess.
That's it. That's the end of it.
Yeah, and then Captain Hook has just like a little skeleton in a jar in his boat.
Oh, this is sad. Man.
That he just points to and is like, I did that. But there's a movie there, right? Because then you get another like cool London chase sequence or something. This whole movie takes place in Neverland, which is fine. But it's frustrating that Zarina's whole thing is just she's got a crush on this boy, who understandably is voiced by Tom Hiddleston, so I get it. Mm-hmm. But also he's voiced by Tom Hiddleston. She should know that he'll betray her. She should know that he's going to betray her. I guess this is a year after Avengers, isn't it? Wild.
2? It's 2014, you said, right? Avengers 2012.
Did Avengers 2 come out by 2014? I thought.
No. I meant that it's been 2 years since Avengers.
Oh, yeah. It did come out in 2012. Late 2012, but yeah. The entire time they're having this weird, very tense romantic exchange. The other fairies are trying to break in, and for some reason don't use the tiny fairy door that was installed to let fairies in.
The fairy door was locked. If you were paying more attention...
No, listen. Wouldn't it be easier to break in through the fairy door than the big-ass door, though? They opened the big door.
Anyway, they get in.
They get in, and at this point, they also figure out the lowdown that she's trying to get them enough dust to get home. Mm-hmm. This is around the time we figure out that... do they get trapped at this point? I think they do. They get found out, right?
No, not yet. They get into antics for a little while. They try to steal the dust while Captain Hook and Zarina flirt. Vidya has to do the tinker stuff so she can make a fish hook to get the dust, but eventually they miss it, and they are at the tree, and Zarina starts adding dust to the tree, and then the girls try to stop her directly, and they just get got.
They just get got by the pirates.
The pirates just get her because they're, full-grown men who can throw a bag over them.
Also, while there is only 5 of them, there is 5 of them. I don't care how much magic you have. If it's 5 on 5 and you're small, like, you gotta rethink your tactics. So they get got.
They get thrown in a lobster cage.
A lobster cage, yeah.
And that's where they're gonna spend the next maybe 20 minutes, I feel like. While other stuff happens in the movie.
While all of the big Zarina stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. She gets betrayed. Gasp.
She gets betrayed. Who could believe it?
We get the introduction of, and this was a bit of Peter Pan lore I did not think we were going to get. We get the lantern that he keeps Tinkerbell in.
Yes.
Because he uses it to trap Zarina.
I think that makes more sense than introducing the clock.
No, I think that's fair. I just didn't expect it.
For sure.
I don't see that as like an artifact, like an important artifact from that movie.
No, that's like if you go visit Captain Hook's cabin at Disneyland, you don't expect there to be like a replica of it there.
He just grabbed a lantern and shoved her in it. Just now we find out, it's important because he mentions straight up that it's fairy proof. Which is weird, because do you know what's not? The lobster cage.
The lobster cage is not fairy-proof, and you put 5 fairies in there. You have this, and I don't know, maybe he's thinking, maybe he is an Oxford man, maybe he's like, well, it would be inhumane to put 5 of them in there.
Yeah, that's some community college bullshit.
And to be fair, the fairies, once Cook, I don't know what his fucking name is, the cook, throws a bag of potatoes on the cage.
It's probably Cook. I see somebody named Starbird. It might be him, but who cares?
It might be, but who cares? Once he throws a sack of potatoes on them, they're done for. There's no way they're getting out.
Do you know what irritated the hell out of me? This is maybe not fair.
Yeah.
But the reason they ended up getting caught was because, gosh, who is it? Raven. So it's Iridessa. Iridessa has the plant growing powers now instead of her light powers, and she is very bad at them.
She never quite gets the hang of them.
What it is they are too powerful. And so, like, at one point she steps on a branch and it shoots them all out, and then they end up getting caught. I thought she was just gonna touch some potatoes. Potatoes grow stuff all the time. You've seen The Martian.
Yeah.
You could totally use them to bust out of there.
I absolutely thought, oh yeah, just use the potatoes. And maybe it's because they're in a sack.
I guess, but like, that was like a hemp sack. I feel like you could just
right, you're tiny.
They're tiny.
Just worm your way through. To be fair, this lobster cage does have the vibes of like, you could probably squeeze out of there if you tried hard enough.
They stick their legs under it at one point.
Yeah, right.
Although I guess canonically fairies have big hips.
Big hips, all of them. At least, I think it would have been very funny if all of them could squeeze out and Tinkerbell couldn't.
That would be good, actually.
Then now we're working in a space where it's like, well, we can't leave a man behind.
And it's also working in a much better space for Peter Pan to be like, she's not staring at her hips because she thinks they're too big. She's staring at her hips because they constantly get her caught in stuff.
She constantly is unable to escape from places because of how big her hips are. And honestly, I get it. I'm there. I'm feeling it. I'm constantly getting stuck in keyholes. Instead, our little baby man comes back, my favorite boy. This motherfucker is following his ungrateful mother to the ends of the earth.
Rosetta, who has not picked up on the intricacies of being an animal fairy, tells him to go away. And everybody else is like, no, Rosetta.
Rosetta, please, seriously though.
She's like, no, I'm not your mother, go away. It's like, girl, that's a crocodile.
First of all, you're yelling at a baby crocodile. Be nice.
And second of all, get it in here. It's a crocodile.
It's a crocodile, and it's hungry. So the baby crocodile saves them.
Eats the cook.
Eats the clock.
It does, but not until the end. So it saves them by pulling them off of the table by, like, fucking with the tablecloth, which... Yeah. I mentioned earlier I just got a cat, and it's this is definitely something that a cat would do. So I guess that's what they're pulling from.
And I guess this is canonically TikTok's first taste of human flesh.
Does he get a nip on the cook?
He gets a nip on him and is like, I'm never gonna forget this.
And he doesn't, because we know he follows Captain Hook around for forever.
And so Captain Hook must have something special about him, because Captain Hook isn't even the first human he tasted, and he was like, no, but this is the good shit.
Captain Hook, I don't know if he just, like, eats a lot of honey.
Yeah, this is that Wagyu beef shit, like...
Yes.
They contemplate saving Zarina. And here's the thing. No.
Okay, so Tinkerbell, this whole time, has been like, shouldn't we talk to Zarina? Shouldn't we get Zarina to come back with us? And, like, everyone else is like, no, she attacked us.
No, absolutely not.
And yet, here's the thing. She has done a thing that I cannot stress enough is... unforgivable. If you roofied a stadium of people, you should be thrown in jail for probably forever.
If you roofied a stadium of people and also around a quarter to half of that stadium of people die, because let's say because they all have allergies
or something,
or something, they're kicking in, right?
Yes. It's just that, like, it is such a wild thing to have her be. The thing that she does is actually a lot worse than a lot of Disney villains.
Yeah.
But she is always presented as, like, sort of a victim.
And she had no remorse for any of her actions until she got betrayed.
Yes, and that's the other thing, is she would still be the bad guy if James had just hung out.
Yeah. If he didn't betray her.
Right, if he didn't betray her. His betrayal to her, he was just like, and now I'm gonna go do the thing that we were planning on doing. It's not like he betrayed her and was like, and now I'm gonna destroy the fairies, or, and now I'm gonna do what he wants to do, which is make the ship fly. She wanted to do that too. Like, there's no line for her. She just did not want to be betrayed.
Yeah, right. And, like, honestly, I can see a version of this movie where she doesn't get, because, like, before she gets betrayed is when she and Hook have a little flyby, very reminiscent of Peter Pan, which is why it feels very romantic, probably.
Yeah, that's fair. Although I think it doesn't matter what movie you are making. If two people are flying, it feels romantically.
Yeah, I've seen Superman, right? Like, the only thing she didn't do is say a fucking poem, right? Like...
some wild choices made.
I do like the poem. I'm hard on it because I do think it's dumb, but I like it.
It's just a really weird choice to have her suddenly doing poetry in her head while flying with Superman.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not something you would do ever again after doing it after doing it once.
It would make it better if she just turned to Superman and was like, "Hey, I've been working on something."
There's a version of this movie that would have been better if her and Hook were a team and Hook was trying to convince the crew, like, "Hey, she's super cool. Let's not betray her." And the crew was like, "Nah, you got to pick a side. Are you on the side of the fairies or the pirates?" Right? Like, if we had a bigger, like, let's say like a Blackbeard for just to throw that name out there.
Yes. It seems really weird that Captain Hook is then the villain of this movie, because when he's introduced, it seems like there should be a
bigger villain.
Yes.
Like Blackbeard. Maybe voiced by Hugh Jackman?
You could get Jeffrey Rush.
Ooh.
Like I said, This is just after Pirates.
Oh, man, get that stank on it. Yes. He wouldn't even have to put on all that, like, gross makeup. He could just show up and look like Jeffrey Rush and do the voice. Oh, I would love that.
It'd be great. Yeah, but they don't do it.
That would be so much fun if they did that. But no, instead he betrays her. She's really sad about it. And here's the thing. Is the fairies have done it. They've gotten away with the blue dust. And they're about to leave. Tink's like, maybe we should go back to save Zarina. And then Captain Hook shows up in the coat with the hat, with the feather. And he's like, if you don't bring it back, I'll kill her. Right? And here's the thing is that if Zarina would have killed Tink on the spot the last time they interacted, she was ready. She had blood in her eyes. She was going to fucking kill her own kin. You gotta just let her die.
So I disagree for obvious reasons.
Also, she's a mad scientist.
However,
who cannot be trusted.
Yeah, but Spider-Man doesn't just let Doc Ock die.
He kind of does. in the same manner, too.
But if
no, I'm waiting.
If the fairies don't let her die because they don't believe in letting somebody die over this, I understand that, but it seems to be because they still think of her as a friend, and it's like, but that's dumb, and she's bad, actually.
Listen, if there was any moment in which Tinkerbell could have looked her in the eye and said, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you, it's this moment, right? I'm sorry, she's done too many bad things.
Okay, it's just that, imagine you're Superman. Okay,
yeah, let's bring it back to Superman.
Lex Luthor is about to be defeated, and he, in a fucking last-ditch effort, grabs Bizarro and holds a kryptonite knife to his neck.
Tony, this is legitimately something that happens in the original Superman movie.
Let me keep At this point, wouldn't Superman try to save Bizarro?
No, yeah, he would, but...
He would, right? And I think the fairies also have to have, in order for it to be a children's movie, also have to have unassailable ethics.
It's different, and here's why. Because one,
Did I choose the wrong supervillain? Should it not be Bizarro? Is he too complicated?
No, here's what it is one, we know Superman has a code of ethics, right, that we know and understand because he's been around for however long, almost 100 years.
Doesn't. She's like Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman will
kill whoever. We know Tinkerbell is down to fucking murder because she almost kills Wendy, and that's a child.
She does.
We know that Tinkerbell has the lust, that she could do it. She could Rorschach her anytime she wants. Dead. This was the moment. Cold blood. Nothing in the eyes. Turn around, let her die. This is a movie for 5-year-olds, so obviously you can't do that. But
one more argument. Just like the Joker, Tinkerbell lives in a society.
Okay, Tinkerbell is an agent of chaos. Is what you're saying.
But she does have all of her friends standing there, and it would be buck wild if she's just like, let's go. Oh man, that last movie would take a different turn, huh? Like it would be like this was the moment that everything started to fall apart.
Oh yeah, Fairy Society finally is going. They return the blue dust like idiots, and Captain Hook, surprise, betrays them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. For one thing, this is straight out of Captain Hook's playbook. Like, you toss the person into the ocean.
Just toss them into the ocean.
After you get
it's not even the ocean. It's like a shallow lagoon.
But also, it's straight out of every villain's playbook. No way you give this hostage back right now. For one thing, she's too good at this. Zarina is the most dangerous fairy. Like, Captain Hook cannot let her live.
And that's the other thing, right? From the fairy perspective, she does know too much. And from the pirate perspective, she knows too much. Like, this woman has tragically put herself in a position of, like, I don't think she's ever going to live a normal life after this.
No, she has to take the radioactive orb or whatever and walk into the river. I can't remember how that movie ends, but I think that's close.
No, it's something like that. He does...
That was a Spider-Man 2 reference for any of you who know more about Spider-Man 2 and know that wasn't a real reference because I didn't make it right.
He basically does that, but it's a little more dramatic, I think. Zarina has been double betrayed. Also, Tinkerbell does something that I do think is wild, which is she doesn't just hand the blue pixie dust back. She puts it back on the pedestal and turns it back on.
Yeah, she didn't need to do that. She could have tossed it.
Throw it at his feet and fucking spit on him. Like, come on. Here's your fucking pixie dust, asshole.
Joke.
What'd you get, B's in Oxford and your mom doesn't love you anymore? Cry about it.
That's probably what happened. That's why I became a pirate.
We get a Houdini trick, except not as impressive.
Not as impressive because you get to see all of it and it's all real magic, so that's less interesting. Old
Zarina
gets tossed into the water and everybody has to save her before she drowns.
This is pretty cool. They all use their powers. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm. The nice thing about it is that they have all, throughout this movie, which blessedly is not very long, they have all had to get better at using these powers that aren't really theirs.
It's fun.
And this is a moment where they can all use them together and save her. Again, if she hadn't been so evil, I would have more praise to give it. But there's
a little nitpick I have here, which is that Zarina starts crying because she realizes in this moment, now that she's almost died, that maybe she's made some mistakes.
Yeah. Oopsies.
Yeah, in which she's crying, and I think at the time I watched this movie, I had just watched The Secret World of Arietti. Those tears need to be fucking massive. Ghibli has that down. Like, if you're a tiny person, your tears need to be the size of fucking planets. Like, 1, it's adorable. 2, looks great. Looks great every time. So they decide that they can't let Captain Hook get away with this. They've teamed up.
They all get these little swords, and they're like, yeah, it's time to kick some ass.
I was waiting. We never get a sword fight. There is no point. I mean, Zarina, like, points her little, toothpick around, but I think it gets, like, knocked out of her hand instantly.
That is a real shame.
And, yeah, it just becomes, like, a magic on pirate fight, and, like,
One of the really fun things about Peter Pan, I always thought, was that he has the tiniest...
It's a dagger. He's fighting with a pocket knife.
And because it's like a toy. Because
he's a kid.
And then here's Captain Hook with a real fucking sword, and he swings all these guys because he's ready to kill this kid, and Peter Pan can match him swing for swing. That's great. I want that shrunken down a little more. Then again, if Zarina tries to hit Captain Hook's sword, what's
alternatively, because we see her do this earlier in the movie, she could have used her magic pixie dust to pick up a fully sized sword.
A real sword?
She could have picked up a real sword. Right. Well, now, a real sword?
Wait, are you saying she'll curse a real sword?
I guess, I don't know if she could do it to a real sword.
Real sword, yeah.
But if she did, and clearly she can't, but hypothetically, if she could.
If she could.
A real sword.
Might have to... Oh my god, stop her.
we could have seen a sword fight between, like, a tiny fairy and a grown Captain Hook. That would have been amazing.
That would have been great.
It would have been a fantastic end to this already boring movie.
Yeah, this fight scene is pretty mediocre because the fairies, everybody except Zarina, doesn't really have a lot to do. They have to fight the other pirates, but the other pirates aren't interesting, and, you know, they spend the whole time winning.
There's no give and take, right? There's no ebb and flow to the fight. They just start winning. I think with the exception of Zarina's fight with Hook.
Right. Well, that's why nobody else has anything interesting going on. Because Zarina gets to fight Hook. I don't even remember what Tinkerbell does.
I think she kills I believe she kills the Hispanic guy. Because he dies first.
Yeah, that sounds like her. I know that Yang has to pilot the ship at one point.
I believe he dies second.
It did seem weird to me that anybody is steering the ship because it's already flying. By the way, at this point, the ship is flying, which is kind of neat. It's a good setup. I wish they had done a little bit more. And then the last guy, because there are 4 of them, right?
5 of them.
I don't remember what happened to the other run. The cook guy gets chased off by TikTok.
Yeah.
So they're all down. Hook and Zarina get to have like a real fight.
And this fight has some of the most sexual tension, I think, in the rest of the movie. It is dense.
Captain Hook does a thing that I actually, there was a part of me that was like, this is too much. And there was a part of me that was like, you know what? Yeah, why not? Which is he grabs a hook.
Yeah, he just grabs like a hook.
He grabs a hook, I think, to get the dust away from her. So he's fighting her with a hook in one hand and a sword in the other, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. He better get used to that. She knocks him off the boat at one point, and he manages to get enough fairy dust on him to fly after her.
It's great. It's very reminiscent of the ending of the first Peter Pan movie, which is fun.
Yeah, if the movie had more of this, I would have liked it more. They keep fighting. He ends up getting the dust away from her, except for one grain.
Tiny grain.
And because he's feeling triumphant, he's like, "Oh, you can take that one. What's one little speck between friends?"
I do love that line. Yes. But here's the thing, right? Is and maybe Tom Hiddleston doesn't have the range. If I was Tom Hiddleston and I was like, this is basically like the most Captain Hook line I'm going to get for this movie, I would have put a little growl into it, right?
I think that's fair. Although it really seems like they did not ask him to sound like Captain Hook.
It kind of seems like he didn't really know that he was playing Captain Hook.
Maybe he didn't. You know, it's a lot of visuals, actually.
Yeah, like he just came in and recorded it, and later they were like, so how did it feel to play Captain Hook? To play who? To play who? What?
You know, on IMDb, he's called James, and if you click it, it does not go into Captain Hook. It's just James.
It would have been a fun thing to do, right? If the voice direction was there.
It was just a little bit more, okay, at this point, now what you are
Captain Hook.
Is Captain Hook. But instead, Zarina throws the little speck at him, and he creates so much pixie dust that he loses control.
He loses control. He goes ape shit. He just absolutely gets owned by himself.
Which is good. I as much as this as like magic has rules.
Yeah.
I liked that they were able to use the rules of magic to beat Captain
It's fun.
Hook.
It's a consistency that none of these movies have ever had before. Except for maybe the treasure trove.
The lost treasure, that has a little bit of it. Even though their rules for magic are hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
And so they have captured the ship. I believe they wreck it with seaweed and get all the pirates wet so they don't have any dust on anymore. Them. And then they steal the ship, too, because why not?
They steal the ship. I thought that they were going to do one last, reference here, and this was going to be the scuttled ship that's on the map.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
They just dropped it on a rock. Like, all right, we're done.
Yeah. They fix everybody. Poor fucking Clank has been keeping all of the winter fairies alive with a block of ice.
I need Clank to look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the next movie because that is so much cardio. He has been pedaling for at least 24-ish hours.
Yeah, right? Like, it's been a day. I thought they would start to wake up on their own, but
no, they need magic to come back.
I guess she was happy with them being asleep forever. She not only roofied everybody, but she put them in a permanent coma.
And this is cruelly foreshadowing what would happen to the fairy species.
And then, do you know what happens? Is everybody's like, oh, Zarina, you're back. We love you. It's great.
There's a moment where she's like, I'm going to go because I've done an unforgivable thing. And I was like...
And Tinkerbell's like, oh, by the way, Zarina's here. And don't we all love her? And everyone's like, yeah, we love her. And it's like, what are you guys talking about?
No. There needs to be like a fairy version of a Nuremberg happening here. Like, she knew what she was doing. She almost killed a quarter of fairy kind if it wasn't for Clank.
The only good ending Zarina deserves is the ability to leave and continue being the pirate fairy. Like, forever away from fairies. Like, because she's immediately accepted back to society, and they're like, oh, maybe we'll try your dust stuff. And it's like, guys, she's a villain. You can't
trust her ever again to not do something like this the next time she gets fired.
She got fired from her job, which sucks, but it happens to a lot of people. And most of them don't commit war crimes. Like, come on! This isn't hard!
It's a thin line, but I feel like it's a line that's far away enough from most people, right?
Yes. It's always a little thicker than you think, actually. Here's the thing, not committing a war crime is such a low bar. And she doesn't clear it.
Yeah,
she needs to
go. You gotta do, and who knows, like, we don't know, like, maybe like 2 seconds after this, it's like, all right, and Zarina, here is your padded room, and this is where you live from now on.
But really, honestly, instead of that, we get Zarina being the star of the Olympics now, and it's like, guys, she just poisoned everyone. We're all okay.
Also,
with
maybe
this.
We should put the Olympics on hold.
Yes, maybe everybody should go home and get a nap that's not drugged.
Like eat some food, maybe.
Yeah,
get looked at by a doctor.
Healing fairy, but
whatever.
Yes.
This is when we get our last hint of Terrence. We get our last little taste of him because we get to see him wake up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, look, it's Tinkerbell."
This is also our last taste that we will ever have of Tinkerbell's sister, Perry.
Yes,
and the other winter fairies who are now gone forever will not appear in any other movies. Thank God they were all introduced.
Yeah, I can't imagine what the next movie is going to be about, but they're probably not going to, none of this is going to be there.
I think we looked it up at one point. This was the last time we saw any winter fairies. I don't think they're in
No, they're not. The Never Beast, which I hear is the best one, probably not going to have any of this wonderful cast of characters that we've persisted with.
Oh, yes, and then Smee saves Captain Hook, apparently.
Smee saves Captain Hook.
What a bad movie. Not terrible.
Movie. Definitely not the worst thing we've seen. It's honestly
not the worst of these movies. I know we had that disagreement.
It's pretty wild, but also it's not crazy enough.
I need it to be a little crazier. Yeah. And it just needs to be a little bit more fun. It's almost fun enough for me to forgive all the weird shit in it, but not quite. And therefore there's too much weird shit. If they could have gone back and rewritten Zarina a little bit, I might have loved this movie. She's the biggest problem, right?
Well, and I think also just her entire relationship with Hook it's not rounded out enough to make sense. Like, there's so many problems with the wants and needs of the characters that we have to interact with that, like, it's never clear why any of this is happening.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to want, is you want everybody to have clear goals so that you know what the characters are doing.
Yeah, and this is not a long movie. 78 minutes. Like, you're a hair's breadth over an hour.
It might, and that might be the best thing about it. It's like, if you're going to watch a movie if you have to watch a kid's movie, like you're babysitting or something, you're hanging out with a kid, if you have to watch a kid's movie, this is fine because it's not very long and you could probably put them to bed afterwards. And it won't frustrate you as much as Secret of the Wings.
Yes, same. But here's the thing, right? I would just watch the first one. The first one is the exact same length, and I honestly prefer it. I would just watch, or even better, I would just fucking watch The Lost Treasure, because it's even better, it's slightly longer, but it's just a better time.
Yeah, I do think, I feel like I keep reminiscing about The Lost Treasure.
I miss it.
Like, The Lost Treasure had, like, a fun animal companion. You get stuff with just Tinkerbell. You don't try to shoehorn everybody else in. And I know why they try to shoehorn everybody else in. I just don't think it worked.
Yeah, it's here's the thing. Make a movie about all of them or make a movie about Tinkerbell.
I mean, I think that was the weakest part of this movie is it tried not to be about Tinkerbell. And therefore, the closest thing to a protagonist was
and she's
Zarina.
The villain. Well, for most of the movie.
Now, maybe if we had seen stuff from her point of view, it would have been a fun movie.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe if we had been there for that year in which she was just a pirate or something. Where is our ranking of these movies then, officially? I think.
Oh my gosh!
Because I think Lost Treasure is definitely the best one.
I like the Lost Treasure most.
It's so good. The ending is so clever. It's fantastic.
I dislike Secret of the Wings. That might be the lowest.
Same. I have too many problems with that movie to forgive.
I would place Lost Treasure first.
Yeah.
Then original. Yes. Even though the original is weird and has a very mixed message. But Great Fairy Rescue is much weirder and has a much more mixed message.
Great Fairy Rescue is playing in such a space of like science is fake and bullshit that at least Tinkerbell is like pro women in STEM.
I don't know if this one beats out Great Fairy Rescue. It's
a tough gig. Yeah. I think I had more fun with Great Fairy Rescue. I felt like Great Fairy Rescue was longer. It has to be. I think it's like...
Okay, it's an hour 16.
It's 79, so it's 79 minutes, so it's a minute longer.
It's just like, I feel like you feel that movie a lot more than you feel this movie.
Definitely, but the thing is that movie also has like higher highs, right? Like all of Zarina's interactions with Tank. It's fantastic. That's fair. The car chase scene at the end, also great.
that was a good car chase.
And then just this little girl appearing from heaven to her science father. There's a lot in that movie that like stays in my mind as like, that was a fun time. I had fun watching that movie. I didn't have fun watching Pirate Fairy.
Yeah, okay. So I would put Pirate Fairy before Secret of the Wings, but after everything else.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Boy, howdy. It's weird to have opinions on these movies.
We have one more of these to go.
One more!
And this is, I think this might be this next movie might be the last film ever worked on by Disney Toon Studios.
Oh,
They were shut down shortly after the production of the next Tinkerbell movie kind of stalled. And that to me is kind of the end of direct-to-video movies from Disney. 21 years of direct-to-video Disney sequels end with this next one. And we haven't seen all of them, but it is after this, right? Disney shifts its focus. Like it has another thing that it's doing now to get that good return money.
There will be a moment when the next sequel we watch will have been directed to Disney.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Tony, there's a Peter Pan movie coming out direct to Disney Plus in a year.
I can't.
In less than a year. Less than a year.
Stop saying things. Stop saying things. Because you're gonna make us watch the movie.
Oh, yeah, you know it. We have at least 3 other Peter Pan movies that we haven't even touched. If we want to get into those, I don't think we do.
We probably
There's at least one that I would rather blow off my own foot than watch it.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
So, and one last thing, I think, before we leave this movie forever, which is that at the end of the movie, we do get like a beautiful illustrated map of Neverland. And it does just say camp at the northern end of the map. But
oh, you mean instead of those Indian camp?
But those teepees are still looking mighty racist and like just listen, I get it. Just erase all of it.
I mean, should they erase all of it, or should they just have them be human beings? I honestly don't know.
I think no. I just get rid of it. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. There might be too much baggage.
It's so bad. It's so much. Bring the mermaid stuff back. Get rid of this like racist shit. Like, just get rid of it. Or yeah, I guess, if you just, I don't know, if it was just, I know for a fact that the new movie's not doing this, but if like they just stumbled upon like some like straight out of Cabela's, like wearing orange luminary vests, hunters from the modern day, that'd be fun.
Thank you for listening to Directto Video VHS. I have been your host, Tony Robusto.
I have been your host, Andy Reyes.
You can find me on Twitter at TheaterBets and my website inspiredbytrueevents.org.
You can find me on Twitter at royalty_valens, and you can find my other podcast at timehonoredpictures.com, which was also on hiatus for almost a month while we moved, but should be coming back soon as well. Probably around the time this drops, honestly.
You can find more of the podcast at directto.video.
And please rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcatcher if you like us. And if you don't like us, please rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcatcher. We really appreciate it.
Or your least favorite podcatcher if it's iTunes.
If it's iTunes.
Because I don't like iTunes. Might be my least favorite.
Yeah, I have not. I've never used Apple's built-in podcast service ever.
Next time, we will be finishing this series.
Finally.
That long
awaited.
With Tinkerbell and the Legend of the Never
Beast.
Never Beast.
Here we go.
Sorry. And stop.
Wait. You were the ghost of John Smith.
I'm the ghost of John Smith.
And
okay.
So I meant to watch it today, and I told you I was going to watch it again, but I couldn't because I found out shortly after telling you I was going to rewatch it that it's my birthday today. I was informed. Thank you. I was informed.
You were the last to know.
I was the last to know.